And welcome to The Smoke Break. I'm your host, your old pal Zane, here with Taylor Barrett.
What's up, everybody?
And comedian Matt Franco.
How's it going?
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to talk with you.
Thanks for having me.
Matt Franco hosts a show alongside Elijah Mang called Couch Change Comedy, correct?
No longer.
I am not updated. What's the update? Tell me the update.
Oh, we just chose to move on without the show just for financial reasons and to pursue other things.
All right, we'll pay your local comedian. Matt Franco's a fucking sweetheart. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, I feel like something that's important is, navigating change and stuff like that is self-love,
Yeah.
That one's kind of hard for me just because it's like I feel like I can have compassion for other people, but myself is a little bit more difficult. What's your relationship with self-love?
Self-love is a difficult thing for, I think, most people. But in particular, I feel like when you don't have a strong relationship with yourself, it's difficult to feel any type of positive response from anybody, whether it's a compliment on how you're doing or even if it's just how you look or something you said. It's kind of hard to receive those things when you're not committed to yourself in that way.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I think that a concept that was kind of said to me was just like, it's hard to let other people love you if you think the person that they love is stupid, because now you think the person who loves a stupid person is also stupid, So it's just like, why would you love me? I suck. And it's like, you must suck because you love shitty people,
Yeah.
And it's like, it's because you can't view yourself, proportionately like to who you are, like you don't really feel what other people are trying to give to you.
No, absolutely. And I get like this weird relationship with people where like I feel like they like me for the impression that they had whenever they started to like me. Okay. And that's kind of like in the back of their heads. So like when I'm changing, but they're not really noticing those things because they may have known me for 5 years.
Yes.
And they liked me 5 years ago, but they're just kind of holding on. In my opinion, or like what I think or worry about is that they're holding on to something that I may no longer be. Type of thing.
Do you stress about the need to like uphold that image that you feel like people viewed you as the on their first impression of you?
No, absolutely. I mean, I really do not like conflict. I don't like hurting people, so like I kind of just choose to do whatever's easiest in helping people. I mean, it makes me feel good, but it's also like it's like people are like, "Oh, you're so nice, you did this for me," but it's like also like doing something for myself because I am getting that satisfaction of upholding a positive, persona, I guess.
Would you think that kind of comes from like a people pleasing standpoint of just like, I want you to be happy because I like people around me being happy, or?
Yeah, that or like something that I grew up from I had two parents that my dad could not show love. Is he feels it, but he is unable to really say it or show it in affection. And then my mom is overbearing affection. So it's way too much, not enough. So I struggle with how much is the correct amount to give? Also what is true affection from somebody else and what is fake essentially.
Yeah, what would make it genuine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know my dad loves me, but I don't see it. And I know my mom loves me, but I see it constantly.
Yeah.
So it's
it sounds like they might have both been kind of overcompensating, and like one person was showing it through like acts of well, I provide this and this and this. The one person was just wouldn't stop saying I love you all the time, and it's I can definitely imagine why that would make it hard to interpret it from a genuine way and also distribute it in genuine ways. So that would take a lot of self-love and self-awareness to be able to understand exactly what that means, coming to you and coming from you.
Absolutely.
Definitely. What about you, Taylor? What's your relationship with self-love?
Self-love is I think it's difficult for a lot of people. I'm definitely no exception to that. I think it gets really complicated too when self-love is adjacent to the need for self-improvement, because if you want to improve things, then you have to look at the gaps in stuff. What do I need to get better at, instead of looking at what are you good at, and especially when self-love can come down to a sense of self-worth. If you're good at these things, if you're able to have this output, then that might be where you're able to kind of interpret your self-love from. And if you're constantly trying to improve, then you're not taking a whole lot of time to look at the things that you do value about yourself, because you're looking at the things that you just want to improve on.
Yeah.
And that can make that a very strenuous process to feel that self-love and to feel appreciated. But I also think that inadvertently we've kind of been talking about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, like that's something that I fall back on a lot, where like if you don't feel like safety and security, then it's hard to feel, or borderline impossible to feel like a sense of purpose and like healthy output. If you don't feel a sense of purpose and healthy output and community, it's difficult to feel, or even impossible to feel, a sense of like worth and self-love. And then, you know, from the, and like the top of the pyramid is like self-actualization, which is like your output and everything you say, think, and do is all in harmony. And I think that self-love is like right in the middle / kind of towards the top of that pyramid. But I think that I think everybody should like have a picture of fucking Maslow's hierarchy of needs like on their rearview mirror.
Yeah, you know? next to the food pyramid, which we also found out is a myth.
Yeah, I consume way too many oils for. I need everything fucking deep fried. That's my self-love, is eating deep fried food.
No, I definitely I like what you said about the self-worth, because it's like for some reason, like for me that connects a lot, because it's like I feel like my self-worth is often tied to my output. You know, if I didn't put out a song, if I haven't gone to an open mic, if I haven't done this, if I haven't been on a show, then it's like, where's my worth? But it's like I feel like, you know, by having that self-love, like on the times that the world isn't reflecting back to you what you would like to see in yourself, like, you know, that's still there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what has been like your journey with self-love? Like, would you say you're at a much different place than you were before?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that I'm growing past things. I'm growing past some like old habits and whatnot. I mean, it's difficult because like sometimes I feel like because of growing up with depression, I feel like part of me is like addicted to it in a way.
Sure.
Like it's like weird to feel like, how would I feel without this thing?
Yeah, it's so familiar that you're like, what would I do if I didn't feel like this?
Yeah, and so I feel like that goes back to like really enjoying getting like receiving the self-love, but because I find it difficult to step away from that depression side, that it's like I don't really hear what they're saying, and it's almost like I just appreciate the validation or like the immediate fix of like, you're great, but it's like it's not really sinking in because of that addiction of the lack of the self-worth.
Yeah,
like operating from like a place of like familiarity too, because like if you grew up, you know, like I say this because I like heavily relate to what you just said, like growing up from a place of like anxiety, chaos, and depression, like it's hard to like learn to accept things even like just from yourself without having that like little voice in the back of your head of like questioning it constantly and like trying to find like the fakeness in it, or like the intention behind it or whatever, you know, and that can again make it really like rocky to navigate.
Yeah, definitely.
And just accept.
Yeah. I mean, I would say like for me, like with like my journey with self-love is, you know, I would say I have a lot more of it now, honestly. I would say that I've definitely like gotten to a place, and I think like self-love comes with like accepting, you know, like who you are, who you have been, who you, you know, seeing the potential of who you could be, you know, like I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in who we have been that we're like, oh, this is just who I am. And it's just like, no, that's who you've been. And that's like a starting spot, you know? So it's like, I think just having that acceptance of like, this is me. Something that like I was talking about with my boss, who actually just made a pin for it, said, this is just what's happening now, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just the idea that like, it's accepting the moment, you know, like you can have this plan of like, oh, it's going to be like this. It's going to be like this. I'm going to walk in. They're going to say this. I'm going to say this. And then like that doesn't happen. You kind of just have to be like, all right, well, this is just what's happening now. Yeah.
Feelings are so temporary. And it's easy to be like, this is how I feel all the time, even though it's like you go through the motions of like not feeling like that 24/7. Like even doesn't matter how depressed you are. I mean, I can't speak on everybody's perspective or experience, but as far as my perspective, like there's always like those brief pockets of like you're not feeling that way.
Yeah.
And like I don't know if it's like. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, you're all good. You're all good. I very much agree with the idea that like I don't always feel like this. Like I recently got a tattoo. I don't know. I think I showed it to you when I showed up to the open mic, but it just says, "This is the best I've ever done at my worst."
Nice.
And just understanding like that idea that like, and it was something that Taylor had said to me. You know, credit to this dude.
Put my name on it on the tattoo.
Yeah, you might as well sign your fucking initials, bro. But like you had said it to me at like a time where like I felt like I wasn't doing that well, or you know, like it's that things that changed, or like I was taking my medication and things were like better, but like I still wasn't doing that well. And he pointed out like, this is the best you've done at your worst. Like think of all the times you've been at your worst and things have been so much more bad.
Yeah.
So much more bad. I don't think I said it like that.
I know. Yeah. I'm not quoting you that. I didn't get more bad tattooed on me, fuckhead.
I was curious, like, to both of you, if there was anything like a catalyst towards progress in like the past X amount of years or whatever, like a phrase or like an event or anything that like helped make progress towards self-love or self-acceptance or anything of the like.
For me, it's something that I often think about. I don't know if I read it somewhere or thought of it, but is that happiness is temporary, but so is pain.
Word.
So that's something like I constantly remind myself. I tell other people that.
Yeah.
It just kind of like, it's really like goes back to like what I was saying earlier. Like feelings are so like temporary, and like there's like always going to be like the next time you get to smoke with a buddy, or the next time you get to go home early from work, or whatever it may be that gives you like that, just that like nice.
Those are like the pinnacles of my happiness. I really appreciate that you mentioned those two. You
fucking nailed it.
I was like, yep. Usually I do them on the same day. So
yeah, one allows the other to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey guys, I'm coming home early. Let's smoke. I like what you said about like they're both temporary, and that's hard to accept too, because like happiness is such like a soft, like fleeting feeling, and pain is such like a harsh, like cold, brutal feeling.
Yeah,
it's hard to acknowledge both of them as like equally temporary, because like pain just like it hits you so much brutal, and it feels like it's like. Pain for me feels like it's like inside of me, and happiness feels like it's like outside of me often. You know, like I don't know if putting
kind of like a glow, you know, where you're like, oh, I'm happy, you know, as opposed to like
pain feels like it cut, you know.
Like
it's such a different experience, but acknowledging that they're both temporary, I think is super important.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, the thing that like the realization that I kind of come to, because it's like I think a lot of my self-love comes from external validation, which is a problem. But I think just coming to the conclusion that like, you know, because I was waiting for everyone else to like me in order to like myself, and that is a pitfall.
Yeah.
And but the idea that I basically kind of come to was like, even if everybody liked you, someone would dislike you because everyone liked you. So I got to a point where I was just like, I literally can't please everybody. And even if I did, somebody'd be like, where's that guy pleasing everybody? You know what I mean? So it's
there's
like,
no winning that game.
There isn't.
Yeah.
So it's like it made me realize that like the way that I feel about myself is ultimately, you know, like I'm who I go home with, I'm who I wake up to, I'm who I go to bed with. Like it's very depressing. But like I'm there all of the time.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to like that person.
Well, and when you're pursuing like entertainment, that can also just be like a very confusing conclusion to come to, because if you're doing entertainment like through comedy or music, or like there's anything where you're on a stage and the goal is to like entertain and make people happy in front of you, like that need to make everybody else kind of like you is like huge in entertainment, just in general. Whether you're like singing, you're doing comedy, or fucking anything, whether you're fucking
you want to be liked while you're up there.
It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're doing hand puppets, it doesn't matter.
And I frequently am.
And so like that need can like seep into your like personal value system, you know, like if you have to be liked like during your hobbies to be able to perform well, and how well you perform affects your like value, or like your self-worth and how you view that, then that can become like intrinsically tied to just directly your self-worth, you know. And that's hard to separate those two. And so like learning to love yourself regardless of that.
Exactly. Like I had a bad set, but like I still love me, you know, like I still think I'm funny. I still think this is something I can come back to, but like just, you know, like being able to, have that separation of like, yes, I need to be, you know, yes, I would like to be liked on stage, but like, it's not a requirement for me to like, you know, to continue to do this thing. Definitely. All right. Well, cool. We're going to take a real quick break, and we will be right back with the smoke break. And welcome back to the Smoke Break. I'm your host, your old pal Zane, here with Taylor Barrett.
Hello.
And Matt Franco.
How we doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. And we're going to talk a little bit about rupture and repair. So this was a concept that like I kind of picked up recently-ish. And it's basically just the idea that like in every relationship, there's a point of rupture and there's a point of repair. Hopefully. There's almost always a point of rupture. There's not always a point of repair.
There's always a potential point of repair.
Yes, there's a potential point of repair. But I think like in order to have a healthy relationship, it's important to acknowledge that at some point you are going to run into a disagreement, and it's about deciding whether or not this disagreement is something that you want to hold on to for the next 6 months, or if it's something that, you know, if you were to come to an agreement, you know, maybe you could repair.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's been like your experience with you know, having friends that maybe turned to enemies or enemies that became friends?
Yeah. I mean, definitely have some people that don't talk to me anymore, based on their decisions and mine. And
Sure.
I have no like remorse or like I don't hold grief towards any of those things.
Yeah.
Like I feel like even if you come to a point in a relationship where there is a rupture or a disagreement,
Yeah.
even if you can't get to a point of repair or have a conversation about it, you can still move on, and still, even if they want to be friends or not, you can still have like let bygones be bygones type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't really see the point in even causing arguments that are like towards somebody like in a malicious way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like in the like, I guess what that makes me think of is just that, like, you know, the idea that, you know, like, I may be upset with you in this moment, but that doesn't mean I might be more upset with what you did than I am upset with you, you know? And I think being able to separate somebody's like somebody from like an action, you know, like a repeated action, obviously that's different. You know, if you're repeatedly causing harm, like I might not be able to hold space for that. But if you have made a mistake, like me being able to separate you from an action and be like, hey, I love this person. This is somebody who I want to have in my life. How do we address that there was harm caused without labeling this person as a harmful person?
Yeah.
Right. Because like something that like, and we talked a little bit about it on last week's episode, was just the idea that like when we have when we make a mistake, it's contextual. You know, it was like, oh, well, you know, like I was having a really rough day and then I reacted like this. But when somebody else makes a mistake, it's because they're an asshole. It's because it's part of their personality. It's because they fucking suck. Would you say that you like that resonates with you in any way?
No, absolutely. I feel like it's easy to come up with excuses for yourself when you have the full story.
Yeah.
Versus someone else who may not share with you everything, which is not their obligation to explain why they did anything that they've done.
Right.
I don't think, as far as like words go, I feel like there's very few words that can be said that should be held on to for an extended period of time. As far as like actions can be different.
Sure.
But typically when, you know, day-to-day shouldn't really occur with like your best friends and, you know, even coworkers. It's like kind of just let it.
Yeah, exactly. It's recognizing that, like, you know, like in that moment. Well, I think it's just, for me, it's just having the compassion that, like, you know, the compassion that we have for ourselves, where we're like, oh, it's contextual. It was this. It's like, if you can put that outwards and be like, maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe they had somebody say something to them before they walked in. Maybe this, you know, like giving that same context to other people instead of just assuming that they're an asshole. They suck.
Yeah. I definitely wanted to touch on that too, because that is something that I've tried to do a lot, and I feel like I almost developed like a really unhealthy habit where I began doing that to the point where I was like making excuses for everybody all the time.
Sure.
So I do think that there's like a threshold to that,
for sure,
where I hit a point where I just felt like I was accepting kind of getting walked on a lot, and I don't like the phrase getting walked on, because it spawns like a whole other like train of thought, but like it just like you have to like find that threshold, and you have to like be okay not doing that all the time. You have to be okay not giving the story to other people all the time. And I think that having like the sense of like community, even if it's a very small, like just 2-person community, just you and your buddy, you have to be willing to like have the conversation when it's necessary. But I do think that it is really important to like pose the potential for like, well, maybe this was a bad day, maybe this happened to them, you know, like I don't know what their last 30 minutes looked like. And then be also be willing to like to have that conversation. And especially with like coworkers, like you mentioned, like specifically in like restaurants or something, you're like in a very high stress environment the whole time. You know, you're probably not going to be at your best or your chillest the whole fucking time. So like giving people a little bit of leeway to like, understand that this isn't them at their like most comfortable spot. This isn't them at their most like thought out spot.
Yeah.
I think that's also very important. And fucking take your breaks at work. Soak them up.
Take a smoke break. No, I definitely I agree with that idea. What do you think has like helped you in the past with repair?
With repair in relationships, I think is mostly just not necessarily like when you approach the conversation, not necessarily blaming them. Like, don't jump to like what they did wrong. More or less just jump to like how you feel in this situation and what can be done to go forward.
Yeah. How are you impacted? You know, it's not about like you caused an impact. It's like I'm impacted in this way by what you did.
Yeah. It's not about making anybody a bad person. Or like anybody have to be the bad guy or whatever you want to call it.
Definitely.
Zoe brought up that concept, not like directly that concept, but just like the concept of like I phrases versus you phrases. A couple episodes ago, where instead of saying like you did this, it's more so like I feel this way
when this happens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like I think that like just that concept of like I phrases, just explaining how you feel without like putting any like intention or blame on the other party is a smart thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think just even the idea of like not placing blame, because I feel like so often we try to blame people instead of like say that we're upset with a person instead of we're upset with a situation, and it's like, I think that like if you can say that you're upset with the situation, two people can attack that. If you say you're upset at a person, then one person's being attacked. So it's like, I think it's more important, like it's more collaborative if we agree that like what happened was a problem, not like you're a problem because of what happened.
Absolutely.
And like putting the trust onto the other party to like care that you were affected, that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to like to hope that they care about you enough to not want to make you feel that way. And people that have like anxiety and depression can really struggle being like, well, maybe they just won't give a shit. Maybe this isn't worth having that conversation because this will cause me more anxiety and stress than the event or the action that caused me anxiety and stress in the first place. So like having that sense of community and trust, it like was like a foundation for that progress too.
Yeah. What's been like effective with you in the past, like as far as people like repairing things? Like, have you had like a situation where like somebody did something where, did or said something that like offended you and you're like, I don't know if this person can, be back in my good graces or whatever, for lack of a better word, like, like what's been your experience with that? Like, has somebody like been like approached you and been like, hey, like I realize I messed up. This is what I'm doing to do better. Have you had anything like that?
Not necessarily. People don't normally apologize, but
wow, that's fucked. That's crazy. All I do is apologize.
I'm sorry that happened.
No, people say sorry. I mean, if they don't, I don't.
What's part of an effective sorry?
I'm not looking for an apology. Okay, is part of it. Is like I'm just looking for the peace. Like I'm not worried about like as long as you didn't like. You're not consistent. You're not reoccurring like harm is different. Yeah. But like if you just said something a little messed up, I'm just gonna excuse it as like you just exactly like what like I really liked what you said. Like I don't know what the last 30 minutes looked like. Also like I don't know. You may have just said it wrong. Yeah. May have thought something that whatever it may have been doesn't really matter. Yeah. If it really bothers you to the point where you like I said you just show up. Be like, this is not exactly like you did something wrong, but like this is something that isn't really sitting well with me. Kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I like that it's not sitting well with me is like just addressing like how you're being impacted. Yeah. Because it's like I feel like often people, if they make a mistake, they say something wrong, they do something wrong, like the hardest part is like the people who are impacted feel like their impact isn't understood by the person who did the impacting, So it's like if that person can come to me and say like, hey, like I can imagine, I don't know exactly how you feel, but I can imagine how it made you feel when I did this. And I'm really sorry. Like that's going to seem a lot more genuine to me than like, somebody just pleading their case and just being like, hey, I said the N-word, but like, doesn't everybody at some point? And you're like, yes, but like, do you understand why it offended me? And it's like, I don't know. I mean, you're black. This is probably not the best example. I will prepare better examples in the future. But
I really like the sentiment of like the apology or like being apologetic even isn't like the primary need. It's the like potential for peace.
Yeah.
You know, like the willingness to be like, let's just like not have controversy and how do we get there? You know what I mean? And also like what you said about like the it being collaborative versus like combative. It doesn't have to be like a you versus me thing. Now it's like we are both unhappy about this one thing that happened. I'm unhappy that I made you upset, and you're unhappy that you got to be made upset. So like let's navigate the issue that isn't either of us. It's the issue.
Yes.
That like coming to that conclusion requires a decent amount of like maturity and respect and trust.
Yeah.
But it's super worth it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think like with like peace, it's, you know, there's a certain amount of like closure, you know, that like kind of comes with like making peace with somebody. You know, there comes like closure, and there comes like a shot at redemption for the person who made a mistake. You know, it's like if you give peace a chance, you give yourself an opportunity to like let go of some of those heavier, more intense feelings, and you give the other person a chance to feel like, you know, they didn't just make one mistake and now all of a sudden they're just, you know, they're just that person.
Yeah,
you have to give people like the ability to feel like, yes, things can be made better, and it's a collaborative process, but like, you know, also that, you know, it's I don't know. I like the idea of it being collaborative.
When there's a concept, I swear there's like a weird ass metaphor for it that I can't remember off the top of my head, but like just the idea that like a repaired relationship is stronger than one that hasn't had to go through repair.
Definitely.
And like I want to say there's a metaphor for like a boat being fucking repaired by like better wood or whatever, but I can't think of it right now, and that's not neither here nor there. But like I like the idea of like a relationship having to have gone through that, because that like that shows that they both know how to problem solve. They're not just like hoping that nothing happens.
Yes.
They both know how to problem solve and give a shit about each other enough to problem solve, to like have a continued relationship.
Yeah.
And know how to problem solve in the future as well.
Yeah. Well, I think friends that have fought in the past and gotten through it are better friends than friends that have never fought and wouldn't know how to navigate a disagreement, you know, because like so many of us bank on the idea that like we're going to have this perfect relationship, this perfect friendship with somebody for forever, and that nothing's ever going to arise. I'm never going to say something that you disagree with, you know. And we kind of operate around that idea. And then when it happens, like we almost like, we're just like, I thought that nothing bad was going to happen, so now I just have to get you out of my life because like
our reality is crushed, you know?
Yeah, your reality is crushed.
I've definitely been on both sides of that. And more the hope that would never happen when I was younger, but like through that happening enough times, I'm like, okay, that's not realistic.
Yeah, definitely. So as far for you, like what would be something that you would recommend to somebody who like wanted to work to repair a rupture?
I think if you just give out the energy that like it's like not bothering you, as long as I feel like if you once you forgive that person and yourself, I feel like that is almost like something that they can feel without saying.
Yeah.
As far as like when you're out with them, it doesn't feel like you're still thinking about something or anything like that. Like, and I feel like that is the first step in almost giving the sign to them that it's like, we can talk about this if you want to, or if this is how you move on from things, as long as it's not bothering me, and we're able to move on in this relationship, that's okay. Like, it doesn't always have to be talked about to an extent. I've had instances with friends where like it still doesn't make sense to me why that thing occurred,
right? But
they don't want to talk about it, and if they ever want to talk about it, I'm here for them. But if not, I'm still going to be their friend. Like, I'm not going to hold that against them because of a mistake that they have made.
Yeah,
it's not really
like making a gesture that like an enemy wouldn't make. Like when I have those moments, I like to like, even if I'm kind of frustrated with somebody, I'll just like try to make them food or some shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, maybe we're not at the best spot right now, but here's something from me that you have no obligation to interact with me for. You can talk to me about it, or you can ignore me and fucking not even eat the food. But I just want to at least like, you know, show you that like you're still in my thoughts in like a positive way, and that this isn't like a sense of finality. You know,
is that why you made me corn dogs?
That's why I demanded that you fucking air fry them instead of microwaving them.
Yeah.
Listen. I'm not gonna wait 15 fucking minutes for a 2-minute fucking corn dog, bro.
I cannot believe you ever microwaved corn dogs.
I can't believe you wait that long for a fucking corn dog.
Oh, it's crispy though.
It is crispy. It's much more dunkable. Why don't you have ketchup? We're going to start a rupture, and then we're going to repair it live on the smoke break. All right, well, we're going to figure out what the fuck's up with the ketchup. We're going to take a real quick commercial break. We don't do commercials anymore. I'm not supposed to say that. We'll be right back.
So fluid.
And we are back with the smoke break. I'm your host, your old pal Zane, here with Taylor Barrett.
Hello.
And Matt Franco.
Howdy.
So during this last portion, something that we were kind of talking a little bit about earlier, but something I really wanted to focus on is just the idea of chasing contentment and not happiness. The Pursuit of Happiness was a great movie that I haven't seen, and I'm referencing out of place. But I think the idea of just like pursuing happiness is a good way to keep yourself miserable.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of believing that like happiness is further down the line. It's something that you're still chasing after. It's not something that you have now. A good quote that I kind of heard was just like, you don't become grateful because you're happy. You become happy because you're grateful.
Yeah.
That's fucking deep.
It is. Yeah, it's stolen too. So go ahead and repeat it and pretend like it's yours. But what does that make you think of?
Repeat it.
Just the idea of like being grateful makes you happy, not being happy makes you grateful.
Being grateful makes you happy. It's like a tongue twister.
Yeah. It's one of those things that if you just say it backwards enough times, you're like, I think that's deep.
Yeah.
You just flip the order.
How many chugs would a woodchuck if they were grateful?
Yeah.
I like that a lot because like you said, like chasing happiness is kind of like the focus on things you don't have. You know what I mean? So like even if you like achieve the thing or like obtain the thing that you were looking for, there's always kind of like a next step. You like I mentioned earlier, you're like focusing on improvement more so than like you're saying now, like contentment. You know what I mean? Like you kind of have to be very grateful of the things that are like in your immediate vicinity, and I think that can in turn provide you happiness. You know, like being aware of the gifts that are currently around you will just make you appreciate them a lot more instead of like, well, I have this, but I don't have this one thing. Yeah, I have a job, but what if I like was, promoted or whatever? You're just like be happy that you have a job, and like be happy of your like immediate surroundings, be appreciative of the people that are around you and find the value in those things. And that's hard to do, especially in like the kind of hustle culture that has been like just dumped onto all of us. But it's really important to like be aware of the things that you can be appreciative for.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, being grateful has to come first. I mean, you can't like coming before happiness. Sorry, I'm stuttering on my words.
You're good.
But I just feel like one of those things, like I stopped saying, like when people ask you how you doing, I stopped saying good. I started saying optimistic because I feel like it's like one of those things you have to be like, I'm looking forward to that next pocket of happiness, whatever that may be.
Definitely.
And choosing to be grateful versus like using happiness to like find that is like a never ending chase if you're like only grateful when you're happy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like something that like, you've probably caught me do a million times is like, what are you excited for? Because it's like, I like to put people in that mindset of like, what are you looking forward to? What are the things that like are happening for you? Not like, like, hey, what's fucking lacking in your life, bro?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if I opened up with that just every time? Hey man, what's missing? Bro, I just woke up. A good conversation. That's what's missing. But yeah, I think for me, just, I think I've put a lot of my happiness in the future. Like when I used to live in a really small town. I was addicted to drugs at the time. And I always had this idea that like I was going to go to Portland and I was going to become a comedian and I was going to be happy for forever. Right. And I ended up getting busted with drugs, ended up moving to China, and I lived in China for 3 years. And I kept saying that like my happiness is in Portland once I become a comedian. So I never truly enjoyed where I was at. And I feel like that really stole from that experience because I wasn't able to say like, I'm in fucking China right now. I'm a teacher. I'm making so much money. I make more than a doctor. Like I'm doing well. I'm having this experience and I never like once saw it as that because I saw my happiness being outside of that. So I think that, chasing happiness can steal from the current moment. What have you had any like situations that were similar to that where you're just like, I could have been happy here, but I just thought that it was later.
I feel like I kind of like catch myself doing that every once in a while, especially like when I was like younger, just like looking forward to like getting out of situations more than like trying to make the best of a situation that I was in. I've never been in fucking China, but just situations where like I lived in Seattle with family. You know, I've lived with like a lot of different chunks of my family, and I like experienced a lot more resent than like the fact that I have had a lot of experiences. You know, like the frustration of like the feeling of being tossed around or whatever, like which is a totally valid frustration to have. Sure. But instead of being like, yeah, I'm in fucking Seattle right now, like I'm in like a really good school district, you know, I'm on a great soccer team, you know, like I'm messing around with the band and stuff like that. I was just like, once I fucking get out of here, you know, like what's the next move and shit like that. And it was really hard to feel like contentment. It was really hard to accept that like I was in a pretty good spot and I could have made the best of it, you know, and that it's hard to make the best of a situation when you're like viewing what the next move is, or like when you're like chasing whatever you think like the next high is, or like the next advancement in life is. And I think like making the best of a situation will make that next situation A, come faster, and be more rewarding. You know, it's like you have to have a good foundation to build the next step on, regardless of how bad you want that next step. You know, like you I can't think of like a good example for that, but like it's just so much more important to have like something to stand on when you're like walking forward. You know, like if you're moving up a ladder, like the spot that you're standing on has to be secure before you can go to the next spot, otherwise you're going to slip a little bit. And like if you're just constantly, you know, desperately trying to get up this ladder without getting your footing, then you're not going to make a whole lot of progress, and there's a good chance you're going to like slip.
Yeah, definitely. So what's been your experience with like something, I would say maybe like even now that like you're content with where it's at, but like you might be happier later, but like you're just content. You're enjoying what it is right now and allowing it to just be.
I think I'm learning to just be like overall just life, trying to just accept like where it is now is okay.
Yeah.
Like I have a decent job. I have the opportunity to get another job in the future if I choose to.
Sure.
I feel like I've learned that for myself. Like it's not too difficult to find another job, even if that job's not your dream job. I'm enjoying comedy.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying not looking for I'm looking for more, but I'm looking for more of myself and not looking for more as like I don't care if like bookings doesn't affect me getting funnier. Like it may, like the stage time helps.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
As far as like posting on Instagram doesn't make a difference. It's really like just working on comedy, like working on getting funnier, and just being comfortable with like that's the path.
Yeah,
that I'm like choosing to take.
Yeah, well, I think just enjoying an open mic as an open mic and not wishing it was a showcase, like is the thing that allows you to be like, hey, like this is an opportunity for me to get funnier, not necessarily like an opportunity to showcase what I've already done. Because like a lot of time with like showcases, you're doing jokes that you know work. Yeah, you know, like, but if you're able to look at an open mic as like this is an opportunity for me to try something new and have it be low stakes, like you can just appreciate things for what they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, everyone has a different trajectory in comedy or just in any path, like not like what someone else has, you may get down the line as well, and you're probably going to get these opportunities before you're ready for them in reality. Like I didn't expect to get half the shows that I've been booked on, and I'm grateful for every opportunity that I've gotten, and I'll continue to accept whatever is given to me. But like it's really like you just being ready, being present, and like available.
Yes.
And open to things. And I think that like relates to life itself. Like being present is something that I think about a lot. It's like just showing up. Yeah. It really does so much. And like that, like clocking in, being around, that goes for work, that goes for yourself, that goes for hanging out with your buddies, whatever it may be. But just like just being around.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and I can't tell you how many fucking times, like, and I always think of this as almost like the New Year's party paradox, where it's just like you go to a New Year's party and you're like, this is fun, but like this isn't the party I was going to go to. The party that I'm going to go to is after this, and that's going to be the most fun. And you're all like fucking rushing out the door. You're like, hey, it was really cool to see you. Got to go to this really big party that's going to be fucking awesome. And then you get there and it's not that fucking cool, and you're like, I really should have enjoyed myself at that last party.
Yeah.
I mean, I also did think of something personally that like stood out on the conversation we were having, but like screenwriting is a huge one for me because like it's really easy for me to get caught up on like I don't have the funding to like get this song. There's no way I could get this song, or like we'd have to have like a super expensive camera to do this thing that I'm trying to do. We'd have to like have a bunch of actors or this like editing or what the fuck ever. And watching the Spike Lee thing with you was really helpful because it definitely made me just appreciate the concept of like just telling a story. You know what I mean? Like you really kind of have to enjoy the ride. You have to be passionate about like storytelling to like to tell a story, and then the more you do that, the more the ball will roll in like in the right direction. You kind of like you have to really enjoy the ride. You have to really be passionate about the thing before you can like experience the thing on all fronts, experience it on like in extreme level, you know. And that's something that I have to like remind myself of pretty regularly.
Well, I feel like the thing that like we're all trying to do is like we're trying to create something that only we can see, you know, but like we can see it. We can just fucking right there, you know, like you close your eyes and you're just like, yes, this is me killing it on stage. Yes, this is my movie, my show, whatever happening. You see all these things yourself, but you're trying to create those like into the world, and you have to be willing to know that like a finished story like has to start somewhere, you know, like, so you have to be comfortable with the idea of like, this is going to take some writing. This is going to take some revising. This is going to take time.
And you got to love it.
Exactly.
You like you got to love the whole process because you know that it's worth it. You got to like, there's parts of it that are draining, there's parts of it that are exhausting, but it's like you really got to be passionate about not just the final product. No, I'm doing this because of maybe eventually, like you got to like, no, I love this thing, so I'm going to like put my heart and soul into this. And like one thing that's helped me with that is finding avenues to make it realistic. Like I'm really into like horror movies and like psychological horror, and fucking I got really into like found footage film kind of lately. And
you found footage.
I found some found footage.
You found some footage. Found footage.
And like you don't need a good camera for that. You just need a good story. Like the one thing that sells good found footage films is like it looking like it's an amateur holding the camera. And so like you can really get away with some spooky shit just by like having an amateur looking camera because you're like, you want to sell that standpoint. So like just the need to like tell a good story, it like that avenue opened up a lot more when I was like, yeah, I don't fucking need all this shit. I need like 3 people and a good script. And like, and so like, I was like, yeah, let's do that. Yeah. And just like finding avenues that allow you to be passionate without all these like exuberant things, you know, like, and just, you know, in enjoying that. Yeah.
What's been like, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Like, what would you say has been like your experience with like, with chasing happiness and like attaining it and maybe not being as happy with what you were so excited for? Like, have you had anything that you're like, once I get this, everything will be fine, and then it wasn't, and you're like, fuck, now I have to set another goal that's just out of reach, so that way.
Yeah. I relationships. Okay. I thought I would be good at them. Okay.
Fair. Word bars.
Yeah, for real. And that's been our episode.
No, like like when I was younger, like I took like, this is off topic a little bit, but when I was younger, I took years off of dating to think like, this is working on myself, and when once that comes back around, it's gonna go. I'm gonna kick ass at this. Yeah. Like if there's anything I'm gonna do right, it's gonna be dating because I haven't done it in a while. And all that lack of experience is really gonna help me out.
I love the optimism.
Yeah, but like in general, just like it's like things aren't always what you expect them to be, and that goes back to like you being grateful before like being happy. Like that's really important.
Yeah, dating's fucking weird too. Yeah, like I haven't done it in a while, and I'm like, what would it be like if I was? And I'm like, no, that's scary.
No, I think that, you know, I too have like put this idea into, you know, the future me will be, you know, will be better. We'll be better. We'll be happier. We'll, you know, this person will be in a relationship. This person will be, you know, will have a dream job. And it's like, I've gotten those things. I've gotten my dream job, and that dream job wasn't exactly a dream. There was still problems with it. You know, I've gotten the relationships that I've wanted, and those relationships, there was still problems with them. So I think that, you know, if you can enjoy where you're at now, but like still be working for more, I think that's a good spot. You know, like there's nothing wrong with wanting more. I feel like there's something wrong with not being happy with what you have because more is possible. All right. Well, excellent. That has been the Smoke Break. Matt Franco, thank you so much for joining us. We've been wanting to get you on for so fucking long, and I'm so glad you came by.
Are you doing anything soon? You want to drop any names, dates, locations?
I host the Midnight Mic at Funhouse Lounge every Friday, and I will be starting a show at Funhouse in January.
Congratulations.
I believe it's going to be second Sundays. They're going to be opening up Funhouse to do shows, and they're going to have an open mic on Sunday coming up next year. So that's exciting.
Hell yeah.
Right.
Hell yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. If you guys haven't already,
sorry.
Ooh, no, please.
Yeah, more. Bring it on.
Please. No, that's what we're here for.
I also will be having a public access show coming out with Elijah and Ben. That's
fucking
really
sweet. That's fucking sweet.
Really excited about that.
Yeah, I love those too. So that's going to be quality content. All right. When can we expect that?
We're working on the first episode, probably end of December or January, give or take.
All right. Well, keep your eyes open for that. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell icon, do all that stuff that they tell you on YouTube. I've been your host, your old pal Zane, here with Taylor Barrett.
Peace out, guys.
And Matt Franco.
Thank you.
Later, players.